Hey there guys, Pioneer Productions here. Nice to see you again. I've noticed that my recent video, How Many Genders Are There, recently got quite a few views. I checked last time and it has over 50 views. So I've decided to start focusing mainly on my political videos, as those seem to be the ones that are the most popular. So, for today, we will be talking primarily about Europe. And Europe is going to be a very interesting topic lately because it seems to be the center of, what should I call this, the culture war, the war between the political left and the political right. And Europe has for long time being the melting pot of the world. All sorts of different cultures came from Europe. Europe is essentially the mother of the Western world because it was European empires that brought freedom to areas such as Australia or America or Canada, places like that, although not maybe Canada because of Justin Trudeau, the soy boy. And no offense guys, but I hate soy boys, so just deal with that. So today I'm primarily going to be talking about the political elite in Europe, because those are the bastards who seem to be causing the most problems. And I'm talking about billionaires, elitists, politicians, primarily leftist politicians, because it seems that in this situation, it seems to be the right-wing politicians that are the heroes this time. And God, that is something that I never thought I would say. How about that? So, today we're going to be talking about things such as the migrant crisis, the economic crisis, and the cultural condition of Europe in general. So, those are the main subjects. Let's get started. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the political elite. So, these guys are the people who have the most power in Europe. They run the European Union, they have very high positions in places like NATO and other major organizations and governments, and the thing is that they've been receiving an increasing amount of backlash from the European civilian population because of their actions, their recent actions, which involves the disastrous decision to pull in millions of Middle Eastern and North African migrants, which these elites themselves actually admitted was a mistake. And yeah, things have gotten pretty bad. With its low fertility rate, Europe cannot sustain itself. And while I will admit this influx of migrants has helped pull the birth rate up recently, it has also created a number of side effects that kind of cancel out whatever tiny benefits could be squeezed out of this whole situation. Skyrocketing crime rates and terrorist attacks have completely destroyed the morale of the European people. And with these things becoming commonplace, this is why right-wing parties, mostly moderate, hear me out on this, mostly moderate, have become unbelievably popular in Europe, because this is the alternative that the European people have. The other good news is, and I'm going to try and focus on the more positive side here, the other good news is that recently birth rates among ethnic Europeans have started to rise. So let me just give you a quick rundown. The replacement rate for population, in order for it to remain stable and not decline, but in some cases also rise, has to be 2.1 or above. The average birth rate in Europe, primarily in the countries that are part of the EU, is approximately 1.5. So that's way below the replacement rate. But recently, countries in Europe, primarily in the East, which is the area that has rebelled against the EU the most, may I say, has actually seen a stunning rise in the birth rates there. Recently, Germany experienced the highest birth rate in 33 years, partially thanks to the migrant crisis, but studies have also shown that birth rates among ethnic Europeans, and yes, ethnic Europeans, is rising. For example, The birth rates for German women rose from about 1.3 in 2014 to 1.46 in 2015. And that's a major improvement when you look at it. The countries with the highest birth rates in Europe are France and Ireland, with Ireland having a birth rate of 1.95 and France having a birth rate of 1.97. This isn't too far off from the replacement rate, and in places such as Poland and Serbia and those other low fertility areas, governments are pushing their citizens harder and harder to have more children. And this is where the second part of my video comes in. So, lately, the European Union, despite being classed as an emerging superpower, has gone to hell. Flat economic growth and high taxes have created all sorts of business hell, because in these areas of Europe, people are being taxed out of their minds because these people are leftists, and what they're doing is they're essentially trying to make Europe communist, and that isn't turning out so well. Ever since these leftist governments came to power about a few decades ago, the economic growth in Europe has actually gone down. And when taxes were increased, this actually caused people to become more worrisome, and this has actually led to a huge dip in morale, which is never a good thing. And what these people are also doing is that they are increasingly becoming hostile to small business and private business in general. These people are communists. One European elite, I forgot what his name is, but he is being called the French Hugo Chavez. I believe that was Macron. But if you ask me, I don't think 90% of the French population would actually like digging out of the garbage for food. And I also don't think they would like an inflation rate of over 600%, you idiot. And I know this seems a bit heated, but as an ethnic European myself, as a purebred ethnic European, I feel very deeply for what's happening in Europe, because I don't want to see my homeland reduced to ashes. And even if it is time for Europe to go on, if it's time for Europe to truly go, then it should at least go out with honor. But let me tell you two things. One, Europe is not going, and it never will. And secondly, I'm not gonna have Europe go like this. I'm gonna have Europe go back to its zenith, because I don't want to see my home, my place of birth, destroyed like this in such a disgraceful way. Okay? Look, I'm all for things such as multiculturalism and equality, economic equality, gender equality, race equality, all that stuff. I'm totally for it. But not in the sort of way that these European elites are doing it. In London, Sadiq Khan, the Muslim idiot who is running the place, has actually become more concerned about transgender bathrooms rather than the frickin' police. And this is another problem. With the recent migrant crisis, crime rates in Europe have skyrocketed, primarily rapes. Because these Muslim men, and I'm not talking about moderate Muslims, I'm talking about real Muslims, I'll explain that later. I'm talking about these Muslim men who think of women as second-class citizens, as subhumans. No wonder Islam is called Islamofascism, because it totally deserves that. And what's been happening lately is that tons of European women have been being pressured by Muslim communities to cover up. And personally, those Muslims that are pressuring, well, my bad for stuttering, but all these Muslim men that are pressuring European women, ethnic European women, to cover themselves up and raping them, how's this for a message, huh? How's that for a message? Yeah, I don't care if that offended you, because you don't deserve to live when you rape tons of young women, primarily girls, and then tell them to cover up, and then pretend you're the victim just because the government will let you be the victim. You can go to hell, because I don't care about your life when you act like a goddamn criminal, okay? Deal with it. And another thing is that These European governments lately have been experiencing a conservative and right-wing revolution, and this is my absolute favorite part. So, this is my absolute favorite part about what's been going on in Europe lately. Right-wing political parties such as Alternative for Deutschland and Sweden Democrats, which are both right-wing anti-immigration parties, have actually become extremely popular. In 2015, which was a huge blow for leftist government, AFD scored about 12.9% of the vote, and later on it scored 18.3%. For the Sweden Democrats, the victory was similar, 12% of the vote, enough to guarantee them parliamentary representation and seats in the parliament. This is really great, because it means that there is a huge mounting force against the establishment in Europe, which is trying to get rid of European culture and replace it with Islam, which, dare I say, can go to hell. And this is absolutely amazing. Wait, what? Wait, the right-wing uprising isn't happening? One sec. Oh, hang on.